you've been on the internet for any amount of time, the name Anita Sarkeesian probably rings a bell, but whether or not you have an opinion about her is a completely other story. So a while back I decided I wanted to make a companion video series, with one video talking about reasons people like her and another one talking about why some people dislike her. So today let's talk about 5 reasons people dislike Anita Sarkeesian. When making a series that is going to be extremely critical of video games that have a loyal fan base, you really have to make sure that you have all your information double checked. And this is even more the case with Anita Sarkeesian, who was given over $150,000 to hopefully create a factual series, but she unfortunately failed on a few occasions. Probably the worst case of this is when the YouTube series covered the video game Hitman Absolution, where she claims that in one of the game's levels you were encouraged to kill 2 female dancers, then toss them around as if they were simply objects. The problem is that the game actually docks you points for killing them, and rather you're supposed to sneak around without being seen. While many can argue that having the ability at all to kill them is twisted, you have to wonder what is to be expected from a video game called Hitman. Plus you're able to kill people of both genders, so it's not just a female thing. And this is only one of the most blatant examples of inaccuracies. A simple Google search will bring up tons of videos picking apart her YouTube series. I think it's no surprise that when inaccuracies like this happen, it's sure to get people mad. To be honest, this is probably one of the weaker cases against Anita, but I think it's still worth a mention. When originally starting the Kickstarter campaign, she made it seem like she was the gamer herself that wanted to take on the misogynistic ways of the industry, which many thought was a noble enough pursuit, until it was realized that she had admitted on film that she was not a fan of video games herself.
One song, except I'm doing video games. So it's not exactly a fandom. I'm not a fan of video games. I actually had to learn a lot about video games in the process of making this.
This gave people a lot of ammunition to rail on her points, since she didn't even like the things that she was discussing until she wanted money to make a series about it. Because of this, many have dismissed her points, even more so because it appears that she only got into gaming to complain about it and raise money on Kickstarter. As mentioned earlier though, this argument is kind of weak since her not being a gamer herself doesn't necessarily make her arguments less valid, but it does make many wonder what her intentions were to make tropes versus women in video games in the first place. There are a lot of stigmatizing people in our culture today that will speak their mind no matter how unpopular it is to do so, and I don't think anyone would argue Anita falls into this category. But the key difference many see between her and many other figures is that she won't debate any of her critics. While she has made appearances on many programs, the hosts never try to counter her points, and on Twitter it seems that she almost completely ignores any counter arguments people make against her series. There have been cases where well-known opponents of her ideas wanted to have a civil public debate so she can defend her points, but she simply doesn't respond to these requests. This makes many assume that she's simply unable to defend her positions on issues and instead opts to stay in an echo chamber of people that parrot her beliefs. And while many defend her for not debating her critics, no one can deny that she seems to ignore many of the accusations placed against her. Recently, Anita Sarkeesian went to talk about harassment online, which most can agree is a topic that should be open for discussion because of the anonymous nature of the internet and the fact that very little moderation has been implemented on sites like Twitter. To put it simply, the internet's a free-for-all. Now the problem that people have with Anita talking about it is that she seems to always frame it as a female-only issue, which I can personally attest is not the case. When you make yourself known on social networking sites, you'll at some point have to deal with harassment. That's simply how the internet works, no matter your religion, nationality, or gender. These conferences that only discuss female harassment often anger men who have been victims of harassment themselves, since they feel their hardships are being minimalized when many discussions of the topic only bring up one gender. As a person who has gotten death threats and has been called every name in the book, online harassment has never really fazed me since, these are just random people on the internet, but I could see why this whole ordeal may infuriate some. One of the biggest things that irritates the critics of Anita Sarkeesian's claims is that they often don't get a chance to defend themselves or their viewpoints. On several occasions throughout many different publications, Anita has gotten articles written about her where she's portrayed as surely in the right, while all her critics are in the wrong. When these sort of stories come out, it baffles many that have placed legitimate criticism against her. But when these stories get written, they often completely ignore that there is another legitimate side to these arguments. This of course has happened in the past with violence being pinned on gamers. Even though statistics show that homicides in the United States have gone down substantially since the creation of violent video games, it hasn't stopped newscasters from accusing gamers of being a bunch of crazed psychopaths. Now in the 2010s, you could swap out violent for sexist and you start to understand why many are upset. Well, there you have my picks for 5 reasons people are super critical of Anita Sarkeesian. And if you enjoyed this video, you probably won't enjoy the next one about reasons people like her, but I suggest that you watch it anyway just so you could see what the other point of view is on the subject. Also, if you haven't already, you could click here to subscribe. So anyway, until next time, thanks for watching.